Well, hello and welcome to all of our Gold viewers around the world. I'm Fiona Lang-Sharp, IBCLC Director of Communications and MC here at Gold Learning. Welcome to all of you joining us here today. We are talking about our Gold Neonatal Online Conference coming up here very soon. In fact, it begins live on May 31st. So don't forget to head over to the website at goldneonatal.com for all the scheduled events, all the cost savings, and yes, groups are still available, so you can definitely email us about that in order to watch with all your closest friends and colleagues. So much fun. Today, as you can see, we've got Dr. Michael Narvey, who is with us. We're going to be chatting with him in just a moment and getting all the updates that are happening. I do want to tell you that he is going to be speaking on respiratory problems in the newborn. Where are we in 2022? It does sound like a little bit of a mystery, Michael, but I'm sure you will enlighten us in just a moment. But please, could you go ahead and introduce yourself once again? You're not new to Gold. You've been here many times before, but there might be some friends out there today who have not met you yet. So please let folks know where you are, what you do, and where you are in the world.
Okay, thanks for having me once again. It's nice to be back. So I'm a neonatologist, a newborn intensive care specialist. I'm located in Canada, and I happen to be right in the center of Canada in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I've been working here in Winnipeg for the past 12 years, and before that I was in Alberta. So my career spans now, I'm proud to say I would consider myself a mid-career neonatologist, and my pleasure is taking care of babies and taking them from their sick state to discharge.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And thank you for that. We appreciate that. You've held quite a few roles in your time in your career as far as different societies and stuff. What are you doing these days? I feel like you're constantly volunteering yourself.
Well, thank you for that. So yeah, I've sort of moved through a number of things in my career. I went through a period of being an educator when I was a fellowship program director out in Alberta. I've been a medical director for level 2 unit. I've more recently, for the past 12 years, it's hard to believe it's been that long, I've been a section head, or what we call division head, here in Winnipeg for newborn intensive care. And then on a national level, I've been involved back since I think 2015, when I became a member of the Fetus and Newborn Committee of the Canadian Pediatric Society. And it's been a real pleasure to work on guidelines that I know a lot of your listeners, will frequently refer to when they're thinking about how to care for newborns. And in the last few years, I've had the real pleasure and honor of being the chair of the committee and helping to steer some of our national guidelines. So it's been a real joy.
Oh, wow, Micah, that's amazing. And yes, we do refer to them. We share them internationally, I feel, around the world, because there is a lot of comparison that happens. People want to know what protocols are happening in different countries. And of course, particularly in the last couple of years, through the trenches of COVID, everyone was very keen to get their hands on policy and practice and find out what was happening and if there had been any updates. I'm sure that has impacted you in many ways over the last couple of years.
Oh, yes. Since coming out with our COVID guidelines, we had 3 of them, as I'm sure your listeners would be aware, pertaining to care before delivery, care after delivery. And then one of the most popular statements we had was the one referring to breastfeeding, right, and safety of breastfeeding, and answering all your questions, or at least I hope we attempted to answer a lot of the questions around safety of breastfeeding and antibodies and so forth. And those statements have all gone through multiple revisions. There's another revision coming because as we've moved through the pandemic, it's hard to believe we're almost 2.5 years into this.
Yes.
But as you know, we started off with a handful of publications, and now there's thousands. And so, as the virus has evolved, so too does the need for changing documentation and advice. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's the truth. With all the frustrations that many of many of us have had. And, the sort of the unknowing has always been the hardest part in all aspects. But protecting our clients has always been at the forefront. And sometimes that has taken a lot of us to take a step back and reevaluate. But I know with some of the new updates, we continue to protect both mother, baby, parents, and keeping them together has been a priority for really from the get-go. It has been a priority, even though at times it didn't feel like it, right?
Oh, absolutely. That always has to be your main focus is at the end of the day, it's always about the patient. It's always about the family. And, I think when we keep our eye on the prize, if you will, and we recognize that that's ultimately who we're serving, so you have to ask yourself, although we've had at times to make some pretty tough decisions when, there was a lot of unknown,
Sure.
how things could affect the unborn fetus, how things could affect the mother. Sometimes we had to err on the side of caution, but we always tried to keep the family unit directly in front of us and thinking about all the potential impacts of the advice we were providing.
Well, that's what I've always appreciated about you, honestly, Michael, in your presentations and the times that we've been able to converse is, I was going to ask you about, the breastfeeding policies. I didn't even need to. I didn't even to tell people how much you are an advocate for families in the NICU, keeping them together, and of course, making sure that the policies are accurate and up to date, and of course, research based. So that's just wonderful. Well, we've digressed now into
Yes.
another great topic, of course, that I know that you advocate for, but we're going to get on and talk about this topic coming up that you're going to be speaking to: respiratory problems in the newborn. Where are we in 2022? So this is this like new information? Like what's happening here?
Well, I think the answer is always going to be yes. One thing, the question reminds me of something the Dean of Medicine said, on day one, that in medicine, you never stop learning. Right. That if he was saying, if you thought that your training ended after 4 years of medical school, you're wrong, because medicine continues. And I think, what I'm so excited to share with the people that tune in for this talk is that, of course, there are things that will not change. Respiratory distress syndrome, TTN, meconium aspiration syndrome, those sorts of things, the conditions themselves are virtually the same as they were 20, 30 years ago.
Sure.
But our approach to them certainly changes. And I think what will be exciting for people to hear about is some of the ways in which diagnosis is changing and some of the dramatic ways in which treatments are changing. And things that once were quite invasive may not need to be as invasive in the future. And we're already starting to see changes happening in 2022 that I think will just continue to evolve. And who knows where we'll be in 2023 through 25. I think things will continue to progress.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you had a very smart dean. And for all of us, the fact is yes, I mean, when you're in healthcare and sciences, it is always evolving. And for sure, I know that many of our gold listeners, they are forever learners. And that's why they continue to come back and listen to these amazing conferences. Well, thank you so much. We're going to leave everybody on the hook there. You need to come back and get more from Dr. Michael Narvey. He is going to be with us live at our Gold Neonatal Conference, which does begin on May 31st. Thank you so much, Michael. It's been great having you here again.
Anytime. Looking forward to it.
As are we. We'll look forward to seeing you online with all of our other presenters and of course all of our guests here at Gold Neonatal. Head over to the website right now to check in with all the other presenters and topics that we have for you this year at goldneonatal.com. Thank you again to Dr. Michael Narvey for being with us here today, and of course all of our Gold viewers. Bye-bye for now, everyone.